So here I'm using a wooden 4x4 piece. You can use a tile. I'm going to size my decoupage paper over it with a little bit of an overlap. First thing you're going to do is paint a light background since the paper is white. I don't want the wood to show through, so I'm going to do a quick paint of white. Doesn't have to be perfect, but just to lay it down a thin layer. Wait till it's completely dry. And then we're going to use top coat. I like to use top coat as my medium. I'm using Daydream's new Dream Coat as my adhesive medium. So just put a liberal amount. So now we're going to let this dry. I have a dry piece here and a sanding block, and we're going to sand off the edges in a downward motion to get all the edges smooth with the side of the block, tile, or whatever you're using to make the coasters. Now comes the fun resin part. You're definitely going to want to lay some kind of plastic down. It does get messy, so I'm using press and seal to have the resin drip on or catch any messes. Then I use small little cups to hold the coaster above, so it kind of balances it out. Next, you're going to definitely want gloves. You'll want several pairs of gloves because you're going to switch out gloves in between coasters. Now here is the artist resin. It is a slow cast, so it gives you about 30 minutes, sometimes an hour, to play with the resin so it doesn't harden while you're trying to work. There's two parts, part A, part B, and you're going to mix equal amounts together in cups. So here I've got two small plastic cups, and then I'm going to pour it into a larger cup. Or you can find these at the hardware store. These are mixing cups and they have the ounces, so you can pour your equal amounts into that. So for this video, I'm just going to use the plastic cups. I'm going to pour part A, and then I'm going to pour part B, and I want them to be equal amounts so that they're level in each cup. Then I'm going to take a larger mixing cup and I'm going to pour both into that cup. Make sure you've got a stir stick to use, so pour that in, and then you're going to basically scrape the sides out to make sure that you have just about all that resin in there so that it stays an equal amount. Okay, so we're getting all that stuff in there. So here's a safety tip with resin. I wear glasses or safety glasses because once you start mixing, sometimes there's a little bit of a splash or bubbles will come out. So you don't want that stuff to get into your eyes. Okay, so now we are ready to mix. The most important part with resin is getting equal amounts and making sure that you mix well. So here I'm going to be mixing for about 3 minutes. Some are 5 minutes, so that is the longest part. Make sure that you're scraping the sides of your mixing jar, whatever you're using to mix in. And you're just going to continue mixing and going back and forth for about 3 to 5 minutes. Whew, I don't know about you, but my arm is tired. We are ready. So I'm going to lay down that little cup to balance my coaster. I'm going to grab a heat gun. That's going to get the bubbles out and smooth everything out. So have that handy. And now we're just going to put a little bit of resin on top of the coaster. And then we are going to use our hands to kind of spread that out. So here you can kind of see I'm just pushing the resin on the coaster, and I did not put enough resin on this one, so I'm going to add a little bit more, and that's why you kind of want the slow cast so you have some time to work with it, because we're going to be doing quite a few coasters and we want some time to be able to use all that resin before it hardens. So I'm just pushing it to the edges. I don't want it to drip too much over the edges. So we'll push that, make sure it's completely covered. And then I'm going to take my finger and just run along the edges to smooth out that resin. It will self-level once we start using the heat gun. So let's just clean up the sides, turn the coaster, and then we're going to stick it on that little cup to balance it. And I'm going to change my gloves because I don't want resin to get on my heat gun. So now we're going to use the heat gun. I have just a small craft heat gun, but there's bubbles in there. I don't know if you could see it in the video, but there's definitely little bubbles and it's cloudy. So the heat actually helps the bubbles rise and pop, and then it also helps with the cloudiness and turns it into a glass clear finish. So that's it. I'm going to show you another coaster real quick here. Resin, smooth it out, clean up your edges, and then the heat gun, get those bubbles out, and then you're going to put them in an area where there's no dust, walk away overnight. And that's it. And then you're going to have coasters.